afternoon, friends. Yvonne Stewart here with you in our study of 2 Corinthians. Today we're on chapter 12, and we're going to find some revelation from God in there, some jewels from His Word. So hit pause real quick and read the whole chapter to give yourself context, and then hit play as we dive into 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 1 to 10. To receive the amazing revelations about Christ that Paul did feels like the epitome of the life of faith. Such things happen to a person make me want to consider that person a superstar Christian, God's favorite. I wonder, what do you have to do to get such experiences? As I sit down with my Bible each morning, I specifically ask the Holy Spirit to give me revelation about Jesus, His ways, His word, and His kingdom. It turns out, as Paul only knew too well, you don't have to be a superstar Christian to receive from God. In fact, there's no such thing as far as God's concerned. He has no value for people puffing themselves up and making a big to-do about what they have received from God. I have found the Holy Spirit loves it when I simply ask Him to teach me. And He does. All it really takes is sincerity and true hunger. Not hunger for the sake of receiving revelation that I can then build a personal pedestal on, but hunger to know Jesus more so I can share Him more. God values it when we come to Him in our weakness, because then He can provide all that He is. Then He can shine through us rather than our own ego. I have not had that paradise experience with the Lord like Paul mentions in verse 4. As wonderful as those must have been, he realized that they didn't come because he was so great. They come so that he could share more fully the simple message of the cross. Ultimately, how Paul lived his day in, day out life in the message of Christ was what really mattered the most. Now, nobody wants to be weak. If we are, we certainly don't want to admit it. Weakness is looked down upon, makes us feel inferior, and we do all manner of things to improve areas of weakness in our own lives. But Paul actually came to the place where he viewed his human weakness as a good thing, as he points out in verse 10. Well, not at first. His initial response was just like ours. First, rely on all the areas where we are strong. And if that doesn't work, beg God to take away our weakness. We're tempted to think that Paul must have been exceptionally strong spiritually to have received all those amazing revelations from God. But he knew better. Paul knew those messages came as a result of God's grace and calling on his life. In fact, to help him remember that it was God's favor and not Paul's own awesomeness, God allowed Satan to harass him. Considering the context of this passage, part of that harassment was likely the extreme persecution and unequal level of hardship that he endured as he carried out his calling. It's an interesting idea to think God does not remove all the hardship from our life. I mean, why wouldn't He? He's God. Well, it's to keep us from the horrible human condition that we have every tendency of falling into: pride. Do you realize pride is what caused the fall of Satan himself and his excommunication from heaven? Pride is the root of all sin and the only thing that will keep us from receiving the grace of God. The grace of God is what we need more than anything else. It leads us to salvation, and it is our salvation. Grace is what empowers us to live a saved life, relying on God, continually trusting in Him, and even when all the outside hardships, pressures, disabilities, and various circumstances make every effort to pull us away. We must have grace. Thankfully, it is all we need. It is enough for all we are going through. To receive it, remove the weight of pride and put on the cloak of humility. It looks good on you, and it will keep you strong despite any weakness. Learning to admit that we are weak in any area comes much easier when we know our weakness is not hopelessness. No one likes to be weak or think they have weakness. We'll cover it up or we'll deny it all day long, even when it's pretty glaring to others. Yet admitting the areas where we are not strong, where we are in fact weak, is the first step toward receiving God's grace for it. Grace clothes us when we dare to take a knee before the Father in humility. Though it may seem so, humility is not weakness. Humbling ourselves under the mighty power of God is what moves his hand to exalt us. If we could wrap our mind around that powerful truth, we would, like Paul, rush to our knees to lay down all our weaknesses before him. Wouldn't you like to be able to say, I am strong in any area of your life, and it be true? The truth is, it can only be found in God's grace. God values so much our willingness to realize we aren't all that. We don't have all the answers, and we don't know how to do everything. If we think we do and can, we are only fooling ourselves. God knows full well what our true capabilities are. The beautiful reality is that he did create us to be amazing. He fashioned us after himself, after all. But we will never live up to our full potential apart from him. We are destined and designed to be amazing in partnership with God. Therefore, our weakness is not the end of the story. Given to God, our weakness becomes a portal for the strength of Christ through us. Well, that's all for today. I hope you receive some revelation from God about receiving from God and the power of God's grace in weakness. The scriptures that I read or referred to are written in the description of this video. So check those out and really get these heart truths deep down inside of you. And then join me again right back here on Monday at 12 Central. Have a blessed week.